Hey everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to look at 5-color creativity in Modern. This is currently my primary deck in Modern, and I feel very strongly about it. I think it is excellent. It has got me a ton of wins, and so we're just going to talk about the point of the deck, some of the card choices, and just talk about why it's awesome. So let's jump right into it. So let's start with the mana base. The mana base is such that every single land that actually is on the battlefield is a mountain. The reason for that is we want Dwarven Mine. So the reason we want to be able to have Dwarven Mine, which is just like if you have 3 other mountains when it enters the battlefield, it enters untapped and you create a 1/1 red dwarf, is because this is a combo deck. This deck is trying to cast Transmogrify, which is the worst version of it, or Indomitable Creativity for X or more on either a dwarf token, a treasure made with Prismari Command or Fable the Mirrorbreaker, or one of the creatures made with Fable the Mirrorbreaker, either the Shaman or the flip side. To then reveal cards from the top of our deck until we hit an artifact or creature card. The only artifact or creature card that we play is Archon of Cruelty. When Archon of Cruelty enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, and loses 3 life, and you draw a card and gain 3 life. If you're able to do this for 1, it's very good, sometimes wins you the game. If you do this for 2 or more, it should just win you the game on the spot. They often just concede to it. So that being said, to go back to our mana base, we need to make sure that we have all of our mountains so that on turn 4, we can Dwarven Mine, where if they tap out, we can just turn 4 Dwarven Mine, creativity, get our Archon on turn 4, pass the turn. We're a 5-color deck, so we play every mountain fetch throughout the 5 colors. We play Ziator's Proving Ground, Raw Green Triome, and Ketria Triome to round out our 5-color mana base. Again, all of these are also mountains. So let's talk about these supporting cards as well. So we have Spell Pierce. As very often what we're trying to do is just resolve a creativity. You know, if we can resolve a creativity, it's awesome. But there's a lot of ways to interrupt creativity, which is a huge weakness of the deck. You can counterspell, or if you kill the creature that is being transmogrified or creativity, that also works. So we need a lot of protection for the spell and a lot of protection for like removal spells on the creatures. So Spell Pierce is awesome in that sense. And it's 1 mana, so we can like delay our creativity till turn 5, creativity for 1 with Spell Pierce up. And that's like a really difficult thing to play around. And if they don't play around it, we just play our other cards and just like keep advancing and being able to creativity bigger and bigger and just let their mana die on the battlefield. And that's totally fine. Or they like have to like end step kill a 1/1 dwarf. And to that, we're like, deal. Love that for us. We're playing 4 Lightning Bolts because aggro decks can be kind of rough, especially the Merfolk deck. You know, that Merfolk that turns our lands into islands is pretty rough. Burn on paper feels like a really bad matchup, but I've had a lot of success against it. All of it includes like, you know, the old double finger cross and clench the butt, but has been really good. But I like the Lightning Bolts. It deals with what you need it to deal with. They come out a lot, but they're a great main deck. They're never like bad. You know, it's Lightning Bolt because you can just hit face if you need to. You know, hits Planeswalkers, whatever you need to do with it. I'm playing 4 Wrenn and 6. I think Wrenn and 6 is a must include for any 5-color deck. Being able to recur these fetch lands are really important, mostly because when you need to hit your land drops, right? You're a 5-color deck. It's super important. But also, our fetch lands hit Dwarven Mine. So any fetch land that we have is a combo piece. And so being able to use our fetch lands in the early turns to be able to get good mana and then be able to get back those fetch lands to then get combo pieces is super, super important. Also, its ultimate sort of says like you just get to creativity every turn until they can't answer it, which is super dope. You know, where you ultimate, you get an emblem where instant sorcery cards you have retrace. Retrace being you can discard a card and you flash it back, and then it doesn't exile, so you can just keep doing it. Sorry, discard a land card and flash it back. I'm playing a 1 of Persist. So I'm playing 4 Archon of Cruelty because in the grindy matchups, you can kind of go through Archons pretty quick. You know, you can Archon, your creativity for 2. Sure, they discard some cards, but maybe they'll flash in a Solitude and kill your guy. You know, or untap and play Solitude, or like Leyline Binding to kill a guy, or, you know, the Unholy Heat still kills Archon. And so sometimes it gets really grindy, so we have to play these 4 Archons. So that means sometimes we're going to draw them, like that's inevitable. But we have ways we can discard Archon through the second mode of Fable the Mirrorbreaker, and through Prismari Command. And so this 1 of Persist, it's kind of a fun of, but I think it's really relevant. It means that when we discard Archon, we're not just ignoring it, right? It is still a dangerous piece in the graveyard because we can just draw Persist, and instead of paying minimum 4 mana and have a million ways to interrupt it, we can just pay 2 mana and just get the same effect. And we love that. So a lot of decks play up to 3 Persist even, especially the Grixis version of this deck. I like the fun of because I want this other interaction. That being said, one of the cards that holds the deck together, Fable the Mirrorbreaker, this does everything you want it to do in this deck. When you play it, it creates a 2/2 that is targetable by creativity. When that 2/2 attacks, you get a treasure, which is targetable by creativity. End is 5 mana, right? It's any color mana, so it can fix our mana as well and sort of ramp us so that we can interact a little earlier than we should, right? Have the spell pierce up earlier than we should or whatever when we go to creativity. So often it means you can creativity for more even if you're not targeting the treasure. You can draw 2, discard 2. Like I said, you're inevitably going to draw the Archon, so being able to discard the Archons, get them out of your hand, super important, or being able to filter for cards that you need or interactive cards, or maybe try to draw into your only really need 1 of 5 pieces as a combo, so having that draw power is wildly important. And it flips into not only something that can be creativity themselves, which happens all the time, but also if you have a reflection of Kiki on the battlefield, can't say it, and they are not summoning sick, and you combo with some other creatures and get an Archon or 2 on the battlefield, you can then activate it to copy the Archon, which means the turn they come in, not only do you get another Archon trigger, but that new Archon that you make with the copy of Kiki has haste. So then you can you like combo for, say you combo for 1 with creativity, leaving the reflection Kiki up, right? You get your Archon trigger, you copy that Archon, you get another trigger, and then that new like Archon can then attack, you get another trigger. That's 9 life gained, 9 life for your opponent's loss. Your opponent's discarded 3 cards, sacked their board, and you draw 3 cards. You just win the game. It's wild. And then you can do it again next turn. And that's often better than just creativity for 2 and getting rid of the reflection and just getting 2 Archons. Prismari Command's pretty cool. Having main deck artifact hate is pretty relevant in Modern right now, like Hammer Time or like Aether Vial decks. It happened to be relevant against Tron a few weeks ago in an RCQ. Dealing 2 damage is fine interaction. Creating a treasure token that can then be targetable with creativity, or like I said, ramp you so you have interaction like with the spell pierce early on is really cool. And then the loot factor, for the same reason the second mode of Fabled Mirror Breaker is good. Being able to loot, discard the Archons, draw into your combo pieces is pretty important. This is not very good at anything, but having so many modes makes it super relevant and good in and of itself. Now, Fire and Ice has been a card I've been on again, off again on. At some points, it's been totally cut from my deck. A lot of, I don't think I've seen a deck that doesn't play at least 3 of them, or actually at least 2 of them. But it does a few things here. Fire, it's kind of similar to Prismari Command. The fact that it has multiple modes makes it good. It is not good at either thing at like what it does, but the fire side, can be interaction. It's really good against like Mana Dorks with Yawgmoth, which is one of our bad matchups. It's really good against like Hammer Time, being able to take out those low toughness creatures. It's just like a fine interaction. And when it's bad, you ice and it cantrips. At one point I played Explore over this card in the main deck, which I know sounds ridiculous. And instead of the artifact removal, I just played like Force of Vigors because I had the Explorers anyway. But one of my best friends whom I play Magic with, and we borrow cards and stuff like that with him, expressed that most of the time ice sort of is an Explorer. Often you are just like time walking your opponent with ice and you're drawing a card, and I think that's totally true. Oh, in a perfect world with ice, you're playing against like Murktide or something like that. You like tap down their second blue source so they can't counterspell you on end step, untap and creativity them. That's not always going to happen. But being able to just delay them a turn, end you cantrip, and again, drawing deeper is super important for Transmogrify and creativity. You draw deeper and deeper, and it's just valuable in and of itself, like I said. Leyline Binding is the reason you are playing 5 colors, right? The big decision you need to make is whether you want Leyline Binding or Thoughtseize. If you're playing Thoughtseize, you're in the Grixis colors. You have to play 5 colors for Leyline Binding. I don't think there's much of a cost. Having to be red mana on everything is a little bit of a cost, but you can cast Leyline Binding for 1 mana by turn 2 by going turn 1 Jeskai Triome, turn 2 Jund Triome, and you have the 5 colored basic land types. And this, just having a 1 mana a lot of the time flash O-Ring is just so good. Like, I think having the ability to answer any threat that you want makes this deck like really scary. It's originally what attracted me to the deck, when Dominaria United was released. It means that I can play the long game. I can be super patient with my creativities. I can be super patient with my dwarves. I can grab value dwarves. I can just play the Fable, the Mirror Breaker game. I have time to dig if I can't find my combo pieces, because I'm just going to answer your really important threats. And a lot of Modern is going all in on one threat and making sure this one threat is like super good. And if you answer key cards in your opponent's deck, you get a lot of time. and I love that. Playing 4 Archon of Creativity. Some decks play 3. I like the 4. I'm playing the Persist. We can discard with Fable and Prismari Command. And I found myself just like in grindy matchups like the 4-color Omnath deck and stuff like that, where I'd like run out of Archons, or even the mirror match this can happen in, where you just like run out of Archons and you're just like really sad, and then you don't really get to play the game, and your deck doesn't function anymore, and you hope you can kill them with Fable, which I have before, but it's rough. Onto the sideboard, the new tech that people are playing is Hallowed Moonlight. It's really good against Living End. It's pretty good against Dredge. It's like fine against Rhinos. It kind of acts as just a counterspell for Crashing Footfalls, you know, and that you get to draw a card on against Rhinos. But it's mostly in the sideboard for the mirror match. Creativity is getting more and more and more popular. And the coolest part about Hallowed Moonlight in the mirror match is if they creativity, especially if it's for 2 or 3 or something like that, they can't stop that. They are going to destroy their creatures, and then they must reveal the top card of their deck and put it on the battlefield. And so when you creativity, and then your opponent creativity, you Hallowed Moonlight in response. If Hallowed Moonlight resolves, they automatically exile the Archons that they get out of their deck, and the things are destroyed. It's always a blowout in the mirror match. And if you're playing this deck and your opponent's playing white, you always need to expect this card post board, because this is the new tech for this deck, especially since it's good against other decks as well. I'm playing 2 Flusterstorms. Sorry, I have 2 art here. I got Mana Traders. Flusterstorm's just like excellent against the Cascade decks and sort of acts as like additional spell pierces against other decks. Remember, like this is a combo deck. We're not playing a mid-range deck. The whole goal is to resolve the combo. The whole goal is to resolve a big creativity or a transmogrify. And so Flusterstorm being able to win counter wars is excellent. Like that's exactly what we want to be doing. And just being able to like, you know, having a better spell pierce against the Cascade decks feels really good. Playing 2 Nature's Claim. We're splitting our artifact/enchantment hate between Nature's Claim and Boseiju. Boseiju, obviously great because being able to, like it being uncounterable is excellent. But Nature's Claim being able to play even earlier is excellent. Also, Nature's Claim is like fine against burn because you can bring it in against burn. It can incidentally kill Eidolon, but also like being able to hit your own treasures to gain 4 life if you like really need to survive longer, or even hit Fable itself. Being able to survive longer is pretty good. Turn the Earth is our graveyard hate. So, you know, it's for like Living End, for Dredge. It can be okay against Murktide. I don't side it in against Murktide though. Well, the cool thing about Turn the Earth is in the late game, and often these decks can like go really long and you want to play the long game with like Living End and Dredge. You can actually Archon in your own graveyard to put things back into your deck, which is pretty cool. The reason we're playing Turn the Earth instead of Leyline of the Void is like every time I got Leyline of the Void against Living End, it got Foundation Breakered, and I was super sick of that. And so I actually think Turn the Earth is a little bit better. We're playing 3 Veil of Summer. Veil of Summer is kind of the end-all be-all of the deck. Being able to like win the counter wars, being able to like be griefed and just Veil of Summer, or like Thoughtseize, be able to Veil of Summer. Oh, it feels so good every time you do it. One relevant play with Veil of Summer, though, is if you don't think you can win a counter war, but you really want a combo and you're pretty sure they have multiple counter spells, Veil of Summer before you cast a spell. They either have to counter the Veil of Summer and that gets a counter spell out of their hand, and then you know like the coast isn't clear, or it resolves and your creativities are uncounterable and your creatures can't be killed and all that stuff. So Veil of Summer is just like excellent. Like I might go up to 4 at some point. We are talking about Boseiju being uncounterable artifact or enchantment hate, and we play an Emrakul. So the reason we play a different kill condition in the sideboard, and there's a bunch of people play. I know some people play Iona, which is kind of neat. But the reason we play that is a lot of decks will side in like extract effects, like surgical extraction or necromentia. Being able to like have them say Archon of Cruelty and you still have a kill condition in your deck is super important. Also in longer games, like having 5 things is super good, especially if you're like, you know, they deal with a couple Archons and you discard Emrakul, you get to shuffle back in and you get to keep playing the game. It's super important. I like Emrakul more than Iona or something because I want a card that if they do not answer it, I win the game the next turn. Archon is sort of that, and most of the time that. Emrakul just is that. And it's very hard to answer. It needs to be answered with an enchantment like Leyline Binding or Subtlety or something like that. Or Teferi is a pretty reasonable answer to it as well. But if they don't answer it, you just win, and that's the kind of magic I want to play. I want to be the one asking the questions, not the one with the answers. So if you like this video, you want to learn more about creativity or other decks, and you're a Spike like me, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.